injured in an accident, you need a lawyer, and you deserve an advocate. Because every accident has a ripple effect. It affects your time, your health, your ability to make money, everything. That's where the advocates can help. Speaking with an attorney is simple and 100% free. We're available 24/7 for your convenience, and we'll take on the claims process so you can rest easy. Because you're not just a client to us, you're a person, and you deserve the best help you can get. You deserve an advocate.
This is the Monty Show, the truth in sports talk streaming. When you want unbiased opinions about your favorite team without the spin, all you have to do is find the Monty Show, streaming live and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on YouTube. And now, here's Monty.
Hey, the Monty Show, live on your YouTube machine, Thursday, November 14th, 2024. How the heck are you? As always, we're presented by the Advocates at theadvocates.com. Clear, risk-free advice. That's what you need when you've been in an accident. It's probably one of the worst days of your life. Get to theadvocates.com. They're ready to serve you in any way that you need. If you want to talk on the phone, if you want to chat online with an attorney, if you want to do a video call, theadvocates.com is where it all starts. Chat with an injury attorney live online, and it won't cost you a dime because you do not pay the advocates out of pocket ever. In fact, you don't pay unless and until the advocates win your case. Big 12 football, huge weekend. And I think one of the more interesting talking points on the Big 12 right now is the idea that BYU is going to lose a game. And I was looking at the old ESPN machine, and their FPI, which is the Football Power Index, measures a team's true strength on net point scale, expected point margin versus average opponents on a neutral field. And if you use that ranking, BYU is not only not number one in the conference, they are fourth in the conference behind K-State, Colorado, Iowa State, then BYU. Jake, is it disrespectful to have them fourth by ESPN in their Big 12 Power Index?
I mean, I think that obviously it's a formula that they've put together to measure a team's ability in some form or fashion,
and it's a good one.
Yeah, and so is it disrespectful by ESPN? I don't think anyone's saying that BYU is not the best team in the conference as their opinion, but clearly the formula is saying that they're not. And, clearly the formula is saying that there's more confidence in those other teams you mentioned versus BYU. And I think part of that is BYU's, style of play. BYU likes to play, interesting games sometimes. Certain games this season have been much closer than they probably should have been. I think people, generally speaking, don't have confidence that BYU can put teams away, and that BYU is this team that's just going to be, torching you by 3 or 4 touchdowns. Like, that's not who BYU has been. Typically, it's a pretty close game going to the half, and then they'll pull away from you in the second half. Like, yeah, that's kind of who they've been. So, it doesn't surprise me that the FPI has it laid out like this.
But you look at that, the column, power index, but then you go right next to it, projected wins and losses. They have BYU losing as many as 2 games, but a minimum of 1. They have them losing 1.6 of their remaining 3 games. And I know that we talk about this on a regular basis. We've beat this topic into the ground. But before we get into the power rankings, do you believe that BYU can run the table? I think it is a big question. And I know that I feel like we talk about it every day. I am not I am terrified of these next 2 games. I think this game with Kansas this weekend, BYU is only favored by 2.5 points. The consensus number in Vegas is 2.5 points. At home, 8:15 on a Saturday night on ESPN, and BYU's only favored by 2.5 points.
Yeah, I mean, I think clearly they're saying that this is going to be a trap game of sorts for BYU. Basically, you escaped Utah, all the drama with that, everything we've talked about with it. And now it would be easy to, have a home game at Lavelle at night against a Big 12 team that maybe isn't the best they've ever been this year. And it would be easy to have a trap game, but I'm not concerned about this game. It's a home game. It's at night. It's at Lavelle. It's going to be awful weather. It's going to be really cold. I would expect BYU to come out and do their job. And we're to me, with this team, we're well past wondering, can they beat Big 12 opposition at Lavelle at night? I think they've shown that repeatedly. And I also think that things like, the FPI don't take into account, BYU's defensive ability to create plays and sort of create shock value for the opposition, creating those turnovers, rocking the boat. Like I think we see that pretty regularly.
But you've also had several near misses for this BYU team. And you look at the Utah game, you look at the Oak State game, you kind of go down the schedule. And this BYU team tends to put itself in spots against SMU on the road. Okay, that was on the road, your first real test, found a way to win the game. Good with that. You dominate Wyoming and K-State. You play a game probably at Baylor that shouldn't have been that close. That was one of the Kalani's being nice games, right? 34-28. Then the Oak State game happened, and you just couldn't execute until you really needed to execute, and Darius Lassiter caught that touchdown. Then you play the Utah game, and you didn't execute against the best defense in the conference, obviously, but you found a way to win that game. Are you at all concerned that BYU tends to live on the razor's edge, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a concern. I mean, I think it really comes down to how you want to look at this. I mean, you can easily look at it just like you just laid out there, saying, hey, like they've played a lot of close games where, they should have beat this team or that team, by a couple of touchdowns or whatever, and it stayed close. Like Ollie Gordon ran all over them, and he hasn't run all over anybody this year. Like, there are several of those storylines in this season. The other way you could also look at it, in my opinion, and this is how I think BYU fan wants to look at it, is, hey, like as part of an undefeated season, you're going to have games that are close, and we found a way to win the game. So I have all the confidence in the world in my team. And so for me, I look at it and I say, yeah, I think this BYU team can beat anybody in the Big 12 on any given Saturday, if you will. I think they're talented. They play well. I would agree that they are not as cold-blooded as I would like them to be. They are not as savage as I would like them to be. I'd love to see them, demoralize teams a little bit more. I'd love to see more of the K-State game energy.
The Arizona game. The Arizona game, obviously.
Yeah, like, you need some more of that. And I think with Kansas specifically, like Kansas is a team that has to run the ball to have success. They have to have the run game. And so, if you allow them to run on you the way you allowed Oak State to run on you, that's going to be a tight game. But again, I have to say, I don't believe that Kansas is going to be able to run for, 120, 150 on BYU's defense. I don't see that taking place at night at Lavelle those conditions.
They average 214 yards a game on the ground. And I agree that you have to, if they break 150 yards, this game's going to be very, very close because BYU does not run the ball well enough, in my opinion. They only average 163 yards, which is bottom half of the Big 12. And the number 2 rushing attack in the league, Kansas Jayhawks. And it's because Jalen's a really good quarterback that can move the football. I think it's going to be a really good game. And I start off this conversation about Big 12 power rankings with that because I am not at all confident that BYU is going to run the table and be undefeated. And these next 2 weeks are really going to show us about this football team because I think you look at this Kansas matchup, that's terrifying to me because let's go through who's the worst team in the Big 12 right now. Let's do Big 12 power rankings. Who do you think is the worst team in the Big 12? I think that's really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem, and this is kind of what we've been talking about recently with the Big 12, is that, there's so much inconsistency. You could easily point to Oak State, or you could easily point to, really any of those bottom feeder teams in the Big 12. But, to me, it's like when I look at who the worst team in a conference is, I take into account, okay, what kind of football you're playing now, but also what were the expectations, because again, I'm a big believer as you go through football season. Yeah. Hey, maybe you got off to a really slow start and that cost you your season, but now you're playing awesome football and you're the team we wanted you to be, which is exactly not what Oak State is doing. And so that's why I say, like, I still think Oak State is there. I think that UCF has had a pretty massive fall off here where you were expecting them with KJ Jefferson early in the year to be like this mid-level, push to the top 4 teams in the Big 12. I think they're a really disappointing team this year and playing some of their worst football.
Arizona?
So, yeah, Arizona's, here's the problem with Arizona. Everyone in the preseason polls early in the season was like, oh, Arizona's going to be a top 3 team in this league. And we told you that we didn't really understand how that mathed, if you will. We didn't really understand how that added up, how that works.
We did.
And they have some nice moments. Tedero McMillan and the boys, Fafita and the boys are a good offense. But the reality is, like, when you played BYU versus how other teams played BYU, it wasn't all that close. Like, it just wasn't.
Their defense is not good.
Yeah.
Their defense is not good at all. And you start looking at some of the defensive numbers and you start looking at where Arizona is. They're 13th in this league in rushing defense. They are 8th in the league in pass defense, and they're 14th in total defense. They're not good defensively. I actually sit here and tell you, I think Arizona's the worst team in the league. I think that is if I were ranking the 5 worst teams, I think that I would probably, and the numbers are really close. And if you've watched the show at all, I'm a big believer in metrics. I think metrics really paint the picture, and usually your performance on the field is substantially based on your metrics.
Mm-hmm.
And I think right now I would have to go Arizona, the worst team, Oak State right behind them. I think Houston. I think, I think then you probably go Utah. And who's better, Baylor or West Virginia? I think that's a very close. That's really close.
I think the best way to answer that question is to ask who they're playing on any given week. I think Baylor and West Virginia are pretty similar in the sense that they don't really have explosive offense and their defenses are inconsistent. Some weeks West Virginia's defense is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And other weeks it's not as good as you'd like it to be. And I'd say the same thing about Baylor. And I think, again, when we talk about expectations and the way a season's gone, like you can't run from the fact, you can't shy away from the fact that, I do think the Utes are in the bottom 5 of the conference.
No question.
You're a one-win team. You've scored 93 points and given up 121. I mean, that's just not at all in any way, shape, or form a good ratio. And when you start to look at running backs getting in the portal and different the Isaac Wilson situation, like it's just not a good time at Utah right now. So for me, Oklahoma State's still the worst team in the conference.
That defense is terrible.
You haven't won a game in conference. You're 0-7 in conference. Like it's just not. I would say Oklahoma State, Arizona. I would go UCF, and then I would go Utah after that. Because at least with Utah,
can't argue with that.
At least with Utah, I can say, hey, you've got, based on the BYU game, you've got the best defense in the league.
I don't see UCF being in the bottom 5. I think that when you have that kind of offense, it's why Tech is not in the bottom 5 because they have a tremendous offense. And I think that, I really, if you just go based on standings, I mean, you would say Oak State and Utah, but right. I think Utah's better than Arizona. I think Arizona and Oak State, let them have an argument over who the worst team is.
Agreed. I agree completely.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I would put Arizona in the bottom, Oak State second. I think I want to say Houston, but Houston's, can you put Houston behind or below Utah?
No.
I don't think you can right now.
No.
So, yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think I would go Arizona, Oak State, Utah, Houston would be right there. And then, I think probably UCF or Kansas. And I think UCF is better than Kansas.
And I think right now it's teams like Baylor, Cincinnati Tech, and TCU, and I'd throw West Virginia in there, are all just the middle of the conference. They're not great teams. They're not.
Yeah, there is
a
huge
team, but
there is a huge pack at 3 and 4 wins.
Yeah,
the 4-win pack of Iowa State, K-State, Arizona State, West Virginia, TCU, and Tech. There's not a whole lot that separates those teams.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa State, I think, is going to be the best of that bunch, mainly because of their defense. And I still, if you ask me today, would I take Rocco Becht or Avery Johnson? Well, I'm going to take Rocco Becht because I think Rocco can throw me to a win if I need him to. So I think that group, I think the top of this conference is a much bigger conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if people are going to automatically go with, well, I'm taking BYU as the best, Monty. Well, I think, and this is going to shock people, I think Colorado's the best team in the conference. Right now, if you said to me, who do you think will win the Big 12 championship? The Colorado Buffaloes.
Why do you say?
I hate the matchup for BYU. If you put Colorado and BYU on the same field at AT&T Stadium, I have a hard time seeing BYU winning that game. I think the firepower outside for Colorado, that worries me. But what also worries me is Shedeur Sanders is no longer making the stupid mistake. He's no longer making the panic mistake. He's getting that extra second and a half to throw the football. And they've got 3 wide receivers that just absolutely eat.
Right.
And I think the other thing that worries me is BYU's offense has become a little less explosive, a little less down the field, over the top, and a lot more underneath plotting methodical offense. I think the play calling at Colorado, I think it's been elite. I think their inability to run the football has largely been mitigated by the fact that they don't need to run the football to win.
Well, and you see him throw a lot of 1-2 yard stuff.
Yes.
That kind of replaces that.
Yes. The matchup terrifies me for BYU as somebody that watches a ton of both of those football teams. I think that there are times where this BYU offense is just confounding.
Well, I think, something that's interesting about these two teams that I think is a classic perception versus reality thing or item is when you look at points for, points against, because I'm a big believer in that for football teams. Like if you're scoring a lot of points and not giving a lot up, that's going to show up, obviously. BYU's points for is 210, points against is 136. Colorado's points for is 223, points against is 140. So a few more points, another touchdown or two, and basically the same amount of points allowed, as rough as they looked earlier in the year, right? So, obviously, I would agree. Colorado has a much more explosive offense, but it's not as though BYU's not scoring points. And so it comes down to, again, what I keep saying. I don't mean to be repetitive, but it is the day of the game. Who's playing better football that day? I mean, I could easily see it being Colorado. I could also just as easily see it being BYU's defense turning Shedeur Sanders over. I know he's not making the mistake, but they've shown an ability to put quarterbacks in precarious situations and force them to pick the lesser of two evils, and that typically results in a turnover.
But so has Colorado's defense. It's shocking. They're the 7th defense in the conference right now. And they're ahead of the Arizona States, the Kansases. They are very close to Cincinnati and Houston, whose defense, I don't think many people realize how good Houston's defense is. And I've been preaching that all season long. Houston's defense is really good. Colorado is just behind Houston, and Colorado at 22.6 points a game is only 3 points behind BYU, who is 3rd in the conference. That's how tight the top half of this conference defensively is. And Colorado is actually playing really solid defense. And I know it's crazy, but obviously BYU I think, is a better defensive team. The point differential is significant. You've given up 25 less points than Colorado. That is significant. I think this would be a very good game. And the thing that worries you is BYU, whether it was the Baylor game, the Oak State game, they just tend to lapse. They tend to take drives off, and Colorado will absolutely execute you if you do that.
Mm-hmm.
They will shell shock you, and it will be quick. So I worry a little bit about that matchup. I think I would right now take Colorado as the best team in the league. The way they're playing right now on November 14th, I think I have to take Colorado as the best team.
Yeah, and I can't say that that's entirely wrong. I think BYU fan, I'm sure, is going to freak out about that. But I don't think that, if you watch Colorado on the road against Tech, you saw a team that was just better. Like, it wasn't really all that close. And it's not like Tech is a horrible team. To me, they're not in the worst team in the league conversation, but they're definitely like mid-pack. And, some weeks Baron Morton in that offense scores 40, and other weeks it's 20. And against Colorado, I think, what was it, 27 or whatever they had, or 21.
The problem is the offense in Lubbock doesn't have the ability to dictate the pace of the game because the defense is so bad.
Yeah.
And so you're constantly in flux with your offensive game plan. Your play calling is determined by how bad the defense is that day. And you can't run an offense that way. You simply cannot. It is basic X's and O's in football that I think you look at this league, and I think when I look at who the best teams in this league are, I think I would go Colorado 1. I think I would go BYU 2. I think I would go, and this is the one, like Iowa State, K-State. We're going to find out. I think I'd take Iowa State over K-State in a very close matchup because of the quarterbacks.
Agreed. And
So
the defense.
and I think that Cincinnati's the 5th best team in the league. And which is really surprising. I think what Scott Satterfield has done at Cincinnati has been nothing short of miraculous. And I think that I'm really impressed with the way that Cincinnati has operated. Now, again, are they a 4-win team? They're not. And I know that that's surprising, and you guys are going to tell me I'm crazy, but Cincinnati's better than Texas Tech. I think they're better than TCU, West Virginia. And then it's Arizona State and Texas Tech. Or Arizona State and Cincinnati, excuse me. And I say to myself, I look at the I look at the schematics at Cincinnati. They don't do anything accidentally. And I really have a lot of respect for that. They're one of the top 10 teams. They're in the top half defensively at 6. They are. I wish they scored more points. I think to be one of the best teams in this league, you have to score 30 points. They do not.
Yeah, and that's why I would tend to lean Arizona State over Cincinnati. I don't disagree with anything you've said about Cincinnati, about how, they're doing a great job. Scott Satterfield's got them going in the right direction for sure. I am just partial to Dillingham's style and his energy and the way his team plays football.
And he loves to punch you in the face.
Yeah, and now you're getting Scatabo back. I'm also a big believer, especially in the Big 12, that injury management's a big deal, and he did a great job. Dillingham did, of keeping Scatabo out last week. I don't know if you guys saw the video, but Scatabo's literally in street clothes, if you will, in their huddle during a timeout, asking Dillingham if he can go suit up, and Dillingham was like, "No, you're not." And that just kind of tells you, like, these are dudes who want to play for this guy and are willing to do whatever it takes. And so I would say, for me, my top 5, I would put BYU number 1 just because you haven't lost. And I understand some of these wins haven't been sexy and, they haven't been great, but you're still undefeated. So I got to give you the nod there. But then, I would be Colorado. I think then you got to go. After that, I'd be Iowa State, K-State, and Arizona State. I think those 3 are kind of, to me, in the same boat.
I think there's a huge fall off after 4.
Yeah.
For, like, everybody else is wildly inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
I think you put any of those top 4 teams on the field, they're going to win the game. 9 weeks out of 10. Arizona State, I don't think I can put them in that grouping. If Scadabo's healthy, they control the clock much better.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, sure. But I look at, like, Cincinnati's a great example. Cincinnati, Kansas, West Virginia. How much separation is there? There's not a whole lot of separation there. I think you're right. I think I would go Colorado, BYU, Iowa, K-State, Arizona State.
Yeah.
Thinking through numbers and the eye test, and I think everybody below that is that Cincinnati can beat every team. West Virginia's, I just ask me what their offense looks like that week. I kind of look at Baylor. Baylor, to me, you want to know the story of Baylor's season, is that I think Baylor should be much better defensively than they are. And they're just not good enough defensively. And your head coach is a defensive guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I look at Baylor offensively. Baylor can play with anybody in this league offensively. They're really good. They do good things. Their defense just isn't good enough. I look at somebody like West Virginia. The story with West Virginia is they're not good defensively, and they're not good offensively. They're not bad defensively. They're not bad offensively. They just don't have an identity, right? And it's what's allowed Houston to climb the ladder so quickly this year and win games, because you have so many teams that are just vanilla on both sides of the ball. And then you have teams like Tech and Utah who are so lopsided in one direction or the other. There's just no separation after the top 4 spots in this league. And I think it's why they'll only get one team in unless Colorado wins the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah.
Against an undefeated BYU. Then I think you'll get 2 teams in. But I think this league is just so plodding and methodical most weekends.
Yeah. And there's a lot of times where that plotting and methodical is mixed in with terrible mistakes and just bad play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then you've got this situation where, again, unfortunately for BYU and Colorado, I know for a fact people nationally ask, hey, look at the competition they're playing. Like, BYU's got great strength of schedule, comparatively.
Yeah.
But there are some of those teams on there that you're looking at, you're like, man, Oak State's just not a good team, and BYU struggled to beat them, or whoever
Baylor is the perfect example of this in this conference.
Yeah.
Baylor should be a much better football team, but their defense is killing them. And they don't want to fire 8-Ball because, well, he's this really quality guy. He's a defensive guru, apparently. Now, I haven't seen that at Baylor. And you fired the offensive guys, and it was Grimes' fault. Baylor is quintessential Big 12 mediocrity,
right?
In my opinion. And, at least with Joey, you can make excuses about he's a high school guy. He's coming along. Look at the elite offense. Okay. What is your excuse for Dave Aranda at Baylor? Your offense is doing well. Your defense is not doing well. Or, you can look at like Arizona. Coaching change. They missed Jed Fish. Period. That's it. That's the whole conversation, right? Oak State, you need a massive change in culture there. Like, there's a story to be written. Houston, Willie Fritz is building something in the right direction. But I look at UCF, you're probably looking at a coaching change.
Yeah.
You have one of the best, and now you've found your quarterback. You have one of the best running backs in the country, the second best back in the conference.
But look at that storyline. That is perfect example of Big 12 football. UCF was supposed to be this team that was like, hey, they're going to way overachieve this year. Again, and this is what everybody was saying, and it's not what's played out, but what everyone thought was, hey, Gus has that team going in the right direction. You've got RJ Harvey. You've got KJ Jefferson. That defense should be improved a little bit. Not a great defense, but a defense that at least can kind of hold their own a little bit. And this is a team that theoretically should be playing high scoring games with a lot of volatility. You're going to be playing 35-31, 38-35 kind of football. And you're going to do that with a gunslinger quarterback. So theoretically you should be able to get over the hump. And that just has not worked out in any way, shape, or form. hasn't been good, and you've spent several weeks trying to figure out who your quarterback is, which brings us to what you just said. You finally have your quarterback, and the season's almost over.
And again, I just will say, defense wins you championships. Do you have to have an offense? You do. In this league, you look at defense as being critical, but you have to be able to score points. Who's given up the fewest touchdowns in the Big 12 this year? It's Utah. But Utah can't score. And if I said to you, Utah has scored the second least amount of touchdowns on offense,
nobody would be surprised by that.
Nobody would be surprised by that, but it's why you're not winning games. So anyway, that's why I say I think you look at the teams at the top of this Big 12 that are really good. BYU has only given up 21 touchdowns. They've scored 31 touchdowns. Cincinnati has only given up 20 touchdowns.
It's pretty good, man.
Iowa State has only given up 20 touchdowns. You have to have good defense, really good defense. But the team that stands out to you again in these numbers is Colorado scored 35 touchdowns and only given up 24. It's why they're winning games. They have a solid defense and a spectacular offense.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you guys think in the comment section is the best team in the Big 12? Is it BYU? Am I crazy for saying Colorado is the best football team in the Big 12 here on November 14th?
I don't think you're crazy for that. I think, again, the question of who's playing the best football right now, Colorado is playing really good football right now. And they look prepared. Like I'm telling you, and I know, again, it's Lubbock. It's not like, 100,000 seat stadium, crazy SEC environment. I understand that, but they can only play who's in front of them. And that environment, they weren't shook at all. If anything, Texas Tech was the squad that was not doing well.
They were not shook. But again, Texas is where that's Deion's home. That's Shador's home. Those are Texans. And I don't know that a lot of people understand that. Those guys are Texas dudes. So when we talk about going to Texas, great. Deion Sanders, there's no circus that's going to be too big for Colorado. There's no tent that they are the circus.
Yeah.
They are the chaos.
Yeah.
And they're always in chaos.
But I feel like they've learned how to use that now. Like
yes.
Last year was like, oh man, you remember last year, all the celebrities were showing up. It was more of a show than kind of a football game.
Kids were lining up outside the stadium and camping.
Yeah. Now it's more like, hey, some of that stuff still goes on, but we're here to do a job. We're here to play football. And as part of that process, we get, the kids camping outside and bigger names showing up. It's kind of been a switch they've made. And I think they do a great job of that. And I think that it's a very underrated skill that Deion has. Everyone wants to criticize Deion for his style and like the flashiness and the, what a lot of people would say would be like the in-your-faceness about their program. And I'm just sitting here saying, like, Deion's always been that way. This isn't new out of Deion. This isn't like, oh, hey, he got the Colorado job, so now he thinks he's sliced bread. Like, this guy's always been flashy. And now the problem is for the opposition, Deion's learned how to harness that power, not for himself, but through his players.
Yeah.
And now the problem is that when you go to Boulder, that's turned into a really good home field advantage for them. So when they go out on the road and play Texas Tech in a warm weather game at sea level, they're not having any type of problems. I can't express how relaxed and how chill they were in that game. Like even with the ball boy incident, Shore didn't lose himself in that moment.
No,
he was just handling it. So I don't think you're crazy for saying Colorado is potentially the best team in this league.
I might go as far as to even say they're the most ready team in this league.
Yeah, I think ready to handle a big moment. Yeah, I would say Colorado. I would say that is something Colorado has over BYU. I think BYU, like in the Utah game, early in the Utah game, BYU was not executing well. Like you got false starts, you got some penalties there. And, I feel like there have been times where BYU just isn't quite, just not quite prepared enough in terms of handling the moment, not losing your composure, going out on that first drive and executing. Like, how many times are we going to watch a big time SEC matchup like the Bama LSU game where, you come out, you drive down the field, score that touchdown, and basically take control of that game early if you're Alabama, right? Like, that was huge. We see that week in and week out in the SEC because the environment is so crazy, but these teams are so prepared. So I think when I look at Colorado and BYU, yeah, I like the football BYU is playing overall. Obviously the Holy War is its own beast, but outside of that, they've played pretty good football. I just would be curious to see, like, if these two matched up, who would be more prepared in that moment? Who would be the team that gets off to the faster start? It's hard to say, and it's hard to deny that it wouldn't be Colorado. It's hard to
it's hard to say
like,
that.
It's hard to feel like, oh man,
I agree with that.
Colorado would get off to a slow start against BYU in the Big 12 championship game. I have a really hard time with that.
Yeah, and I also think that Jay Hill has this defense at BYU always ready to go. Jay Hill, the defensive coordinator at BYU, always has this defense ready to go. It is my questions for BYU will remain until he answers the questions. Is Aaron Roderick a national championship caliber offensive coordinator? And I'm not ready to say that.
I don't think anybody who watches this football team can say that. He's done enough to win ball games. I'm not taking anything away from the undefeated portion of the conversation, but within the undefeated portion of the conversation, there are multiple times where, like we've talked about, hey, dumb trickery play call turned into a turnover that turned into a bunch of momentum for the opposition that you had to overcome.
Yes.
Or, hey, you called a bunch of conservative east to west play calling and wondering why you're behind the sticks.
Who are you, Shane Waldron?
Exactly. Right. So when you say, is he let's stop even asking national championship. Like, I just think let's start asking, can he beat the best teams that he sees? Can he go out and in a big moment call the right play?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a big question.
Yeah. I think it'll be very interesting to see how you go about, this game with Kansas is a big deal. I think there's real question about why BYU is only a 2.5-point home favorite, because I have trouble believing that Kansas can roll into an 8:15 kickoff at 4,500 feet and at 32 degrees in the mountains. And the thing that people don't understand, and obviously I live here, the thing that people don't understand is cold air at elevation. It's really hard to breathe.
Yeah.
It is constricting to your lungs. You are going to have trouble processing oxygen if you are Kansas. I don't know what their travel schedule is. If I was playing BYU on a Saturday night in Provo in November, I would be there on Thursday. I would arrive on Wednesday night, and I would be practicing Thursday, Friday, and I would be running on Thursday. If I were Kansas, I would be full pads practicing, and I would be running ladders to get myself prepared for Saturday night, because your lungs will, in reality, your lungs will bleed on Saturday night. And then you take a hit, you have a glasker coming through the hole and popping you. You're not getting up from that.
Your willingness to get back up is not good.
Your want to goes right out the door. And I think it's a huge home field advantage. It's Death Valley for LSU at night. Night games at 32 degrees. And listen, Kansas City's cold. I totally get it. Lawrence, Kansas, trust me.
It's different.
I have been there in the middle of winter for college basketball. I'm telling you, it's not close to the conditions in Provo. It is conditions at altitude at 32 degrees, which is what the kickoff forecast is. Crystal clear and 32 degrees. It's going to be cold, and it's going to be tough to breathe if you're Kansas. And if Kansas wins this game, this will be one of the truly character-building wins you've ever had as a football team, because this is not going to be easy. Less of us, more of you. On the Monty Show, the comment section, as always, presented by our good friends at Prize Picks. I mean, you guys, I don't know how many more ways I can tell you about my genius, about my sex appeal, about my intelligence, my manhood. Or we could just tell you I went on Prize Picks last night.
Yeah,
The drought is over. And mainly it's because of the Los Angeles Lakers. And I would just like to take this moment and thank LeBron James for just being an absolute pimp-slapping stud, because what he did to Memphis is a felony in many states.
Right.
LeBron James last night, and you guys know in the NBA, I only play points, rebounds, and assists. LeBron James last night had a 33.5 point rebound and assist number on Prize Picks. Not only did LeBron James have a triple-double last night, he had 35, 14, and 12. I said 35 points, 14 dimes. Do some math, 35 and 14, 49. And then you had 12 on top of that. Bros, he had a 61-point rebound and assist night.
F around and find out.
Bro, I think he just turned 74, which means he's now old enough to run for president. Nothing? Okay.
No.
What LeBron's doing at this age is remarkable. And then I would also like to thank a guy that I think is much maligned on this show because Jake hates me. Carl Anthony. No. Don't start. Carl Anthony Towns, my guy with the New York Knicks, who somehow lost to the Chicago Bulls last night.
Yeah, the Knicks are going to nick.
Carl Anthony Towns, 28.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He put up a 59, 46 points, 3 dimes, 10 boards. Like, what a performance. What an absolute unbelievable performance. And again, I don't know if shocked is the word. I am shocked at how bad the Knicks are. I am shocked at how bad the Knicks are. And I don't even know how you explain it, but the only thing more shocking is that the Cleveland Cavaliers are 13-0, and my guy, Donovan Mitchell, last night. This is a guy who had a 26.5 point rebound and assist number. You need to pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. 23 points, 13 rebounds, 9 dimes.
It's well done by him, bro.
$80 winner right here. It's super easy. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code Monty. Deposit $5 in a new Prize Picks account. They'll give you $50 more instantly. Just play a 3-pick flex play. That's all you have to do. What does that mean? You take LeBron, Cat, and Donovan Mitchell. You only need 2 of those 3, right, to be good selections. To win on 2 of those 3, you get paid at Prize Picks. Football, basketball, baseball. The NBA is phenomenal. College basketball, in the pooper for Cooper every single night. Bet the over on. Get in the pooper for Cooper, because I'm telling you, you're going to win if you do that. Welcome to the nightmare. I win. Google me.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I do it so humbly.
I win. Google me.
I do it so okay. Craig G for $5. This will be a statement game to BYU. I think it's 33-10 in a blowout. I could see that happening. I think it's going to be very difficult for Kansas to operate in these conditions, because it hurts when you get hit. And your lungs are tight, dude. It hurts.
Well, I also think for BYU, there's a level of confidence coming out of the Holy War. Like again, I understand there's a lot of drama in that game, but BYU doesn't care about whether it was holding or not. What BYU cares about is that they did enough.
You had to go there.
Yeah, you had to go.
You had to go there, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's what anyone wants to talk about. It's all anyone cares about. And I'm telling you that BYU is a football team, and Kalani Sitake and that staff don't care about that play. What they care about is, hey, we survived the Holy War. We went in there. We did enough to win the game. because obviously there are some games where it's about survival and other games where it's about dominating the opposition. The Holy War is survival. Kansas is about dominating them. And you need to come out and show that coming out of the Holy War, you're emotionally still in a great place and you're feeling good.
Well, when you're living right on and off the field, I don't know that it's much of a question. You know, football's fifth at BYU.
Yeah, right.
You know, Stadium Guy James, BYU 1, Colorado 2, K-State 3.
So this is an IPF ranking, right?
Oh, I didn't know we were doing Big 12 IPF power.
Yeah, that's what this is. Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me that before the show?
You know.
Apologize to that man.
K-State's actually got a better IPF than Iowa State. I had no idea, James. Yeah. UCF can't start 4 quarterbacks in a season and expect to win a lot.
Agreed.
Especially when it doesn't happen because of injuries. Glad we finally found our guy going forward. And again, I think if we are really looking at, should Gus Malzahn be fired? I think that's a really heavy question. I don't know that I'm there on Gus Malzahn. I don't know that I believe he should be fired. I think that when I look at KJ Jefferson has been a problem. He did not perform. I think the interceptions, you understood why Gus made the change.
Mm-hmm.
Ja'Cory Brown was not good.
Nope.
In any way, shape, or form. But why did you not know who Dylan Risk was before you went to Brown? Why? Because it would appear to me that Dylan Risk is a guy, in my opinion, that seems like he flew under the radar a little bit here.
Oh, yeah. I don't think anyone knew who he was.
But how did Gus not know who he was? That's my question. And it seems like, now, are you Arizona or are you Arizona State? Dylan Risk. We need to know that.
I also think, I think it's hard too because, obviously Dylan Risk is a freshman, and you're in a situation at UCF where, again, I can't emphasize this enough. You didn't have a QB competition before the season started. KJ was the guy, so you had a situation play out when you asked, how did he not know about Dylan Risk? Well, you didn't know about Dylan Risk because Dylan Risk didn't get a lot of reps in the preseason because
with the ones certainly. But I'm a believer that, and I'm trying to think of another court, like Utah. Isaac Wilson was competing for with the ones because you had no idea where Cam Rising was. But I also look at BYU. BYU had allegedly, and I don't think it's true, had a quarterback competition all through spring, summer, and fall camp. I don't think it was much of a competition. I think Jake Retzloff was your guy. But Gary Bohannon was getting one reps through spring, summer, and fall camp. And I think that made Jake Retzloff better. Are you not at UCF? And this is my question. Did you not know who Dylan Risk was? And you were like, well, F it. We're this bad. Let's throw the freshman kid in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it feels like to me happened at UCF.
Yeah. I mean, if you knew who he was, you wouldn't have gone to Ja'Cory Brown.
I think you're right. UW fan Jim, are you choosing violence today? Or I think it's a toss-up of BYU until somebody beats them. Okay, so you're not choosing violence. Yeah. Welcome to the nightmare. Colorado, BYU, Iowa State, K-State. That's where I'm at. And then I think I put Arizona State in that 5th spot.
Yeah.
But Cincinnati's close, man. I know the record doesn't show that, and their losses are not good losses, but I would expect next year for that to be a 7-8 win team at Cincinnati and to really run the table in conference, to be a much better performer in conference play. San Diego State, Glenn, hello. As the saying goes, on any given day, BYU is the best team in the Big 12, but not on every given day. I would agree with that. I think that's right. BYU, Colorado, K-State, Iowa State. I think that it's becoming a consensus now that I'm really smart.
Right, yeah.
Dilly.
Look at that. Norge Koog back in the comments section today. That's exactly what BYU did to UCF and Baylor. I think the Baylor game was problematic. If that game's played in Provo, well, but it wasn't. And I think the BYU game was problematic.
When they needed it most, they came through. I don't disagree that BYU, I wish BYU would just dominate teams and be ruthless. But again, you're asking a guy in Kalani Sitake to do something he's never done. And you're asking his team to do something that's just uncharacteristic.
Yeah. Oak State James, BYU, Colorado, 15 Arizona, 16 bye week, 17 Oak State. I love you, James. Oak State fans are so bitter. Welcome to the nightmare. You have to arrive early when it comes to those kind of conditions, so at least you get used to it somewhat. You have to break your lungs.
Yeah. You
have to break your lungs, man. Go for a jog. Go for a jog at altitude, and you will die. My wife, that's part of the thing that makes my wife amazing. She's on this Zoot triathlon team. Nah, I'm good. Do you know how hard it is to train at altitude? My God. Eric and Raleigh, Monty Singletary, I pick winners. Damn right.
Right.
Jeff Johnson, Geoff. Sup, dogs. Dude, I can't wait for April when I'm in Chicago to get a super dog.
Hell yeah.
I'm going back to Chicago by myself. And I am going to see the Cubs, the Blackhawks, the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, and Superdog. Alone, by myself.
Okay.
Google me. Geoff, if Kalani we trust, you better. What choice do you have now, right? Geoff also says Gary Banana Hammock was not that guy, pal.
Nope.
Jake Retzloff has been my goddamn quarterback the entire year, is what I'm telling you. Repulsive shoes. You don't even know what shoes I have on. Like, okay, so when you guys go through your day, do you ever change your shoes midday because you got bad juju?
Yeah.
Do you ever do that? Because I kind of do that. I had on, what did I have on yesterday?
Infrared 6s.
Yeah, infrared 6s yesterday. Could not function. Took them off. In fact, went full nude. No, I did not. I never have bare feet. My feet are white as a ghost. My legs are tan. The tan line is repugnant.
Do you know what that's like these days?
Yeah, it's tough. I switched to Air Max 90s. Didn't help. Did not help at all. BYU recognized the risk in the fourth quarter.
See what he did there. It's Risk and Dylan Risk and BYU, and it all works together.
It's the
right.
risky,
we get it.
Risky business.
Right.
Repulsive shoes says. John, bro, UCF quarterback was playing against fourth stringers during trash time. No, he was very good against BYU in the fourth quarter. Dylan Risk, a good football player. There is no doubt about that. Repulsive shoes. I work in mental health and psychology. Being able to make those miracles work takes a certain specific psychological skill. And I think it's something that can be taught, and BYU teaches it. Well,
cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Sean Rollins. I don't disagree that adversity is a mental hack. But you never understand adversity until you've been through it. Hit the like button. Yes, Sean Rollins. Boy, your Arizona Cardinals are playing good football. Is verticality finally an NFL quarterback? Did you guys... Wait a minute. Speaking of which, can we talk about this, please? Look, you guys know that I am a guy who believes in Ashton Jeanty. I want him drug tested.
Do you believe?
I want him drug tested. I think I need, bro, piss in a cup right now. Because are you out of your ever-loving cocained up mind? Because that's all I can think of that you would say something like this.
If you could script it exactly how you want it to. If I could script it, my family's all in Texas. Okay. Family being there, all the connections, all the relationships, I feel like that would just be the perfect city to play in. Jerry Jones, make the call. Hey, you know what to do, Jerry Jones, make the call.
We making the drive to Boise today? I'm sorry. I thought, Mr. Heisman, I thought you said that you wanted to play for the Dallas Cowboys. And did anybody notice?
If you could script it exactly how you want it to. If I could script
what's
it,
on
my
the ground
family's all in
right
Texas.
there?
Okay. Family being there, all the connections, all the
you guys see
relationships.
that?
I feel like that would just be the perfect city to play in. Jerry Jones.
No.
Make the call. Hey, you know what to do, man.
No,
Jerry
it
Jones.
wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. It's not funny. Drug abuse is not funny, Ashton, because you are out of your mind. I don't believe that is no.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
We all know you want the Chicago Bears. Say it out loud.
Let's go somewhere.
Yeah, you're a cold weather guy now, sir. Excuse me. Nobody wants to play for the Dallas Cowboys.
Here's the game plan.
Nobody wants to play.
Well, it's Dion and Shador and Jeanty,
I hate you so much sometimes.
I mean, they're just going to collect all this talent.
So Prime and I were sitting down.
That money.
And I was looking in his reflective glasses, and something told me that there's a camera behind me, and it's Deion Sanders Jr. making a vlog.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders is not going to coach the Dallas Cowboys.
What?
He is
What?
not. Stop.
Don't believe us.
Stop speaking that into existence.
Oh, no.
Right now, if I said to you, the Chicago Bears, we could, the Chicago Bears, we could flip Caleb Williams and Shador Sanders right now today. Would you?
No.
Would you do it?
No, I would not.
No, I would not.
No.
I wouldn't either.
No.
We're going to talk about that coming up in a bit. But no, you don't want to play for the Cowboys. Eric and Raleigh. The best the NFL can offer is the Houston Texans. What
I
team?
would rather play for the Texans than the Cowboys.
I think if you want to play for the Dallas Cowboys, you are saying you're fine not winning a Super Bowl. Unless Jarrett gets gored by a steer. Right?
What is he going to pull a Gundy and get, poked in the eye by his cattle?
See what he did there? Poked.
Yeah. See what I did there?
Go
Poked in the
Pokes.
eye, pokes. Yeah.
You didn't do that. Why does he have dolls with him? I think, okay, this is too far. I think if you play with dolls, you're weird. As a kid, as an adult.
He's doing that because people say the way he stands in the backfield looks, they look the same. That's what they're saying. That's why that's there. That's been a social media thing.
I hate dolls. I think dolls are weird. Giggity. Hello, Giggity. Hope you had a good Veterans Day, sir. Appreciate your service. Does Jeanty play with a tinted visor? So we're going to play this game now. I think Ashton Jeanty is, I would agree he does play with a tinted visor. He's a weird.
Dude, you got to have drip. Come on.
He has drip.
I know, because he plays with a tinted visor.
I think he, I don't know, man.
You guys
I just
remember
think
back in the day in the NFL when dudes would play with like a blacked out visor? Those are the days.
You're not allowed to do that anymore, by the way. I think it's weird that you're rolling around Boise with dolls. If he had a sack of potatoes, okay, I won't make the potato joke, but I do think it's weird that Ashton Jeanty is rolling around Boise with dolls in his hand.
Uh-huh.
I'm not willing to do it. I'm not here for it. I think he is. I still maintain Ashton Jeanty should win the Heisman Trophy, but now I can't give it to him because he plays with dolls. I'm not here for it. I am not here for it at all. The Dallas could be good team if they improve their offensive line.
Here we go. Dude. Like, just, bro.
No.
We're having a good show. We're not doing this.
Nope. Jerry Jones to Pamplona. Let the Bulls do the job. Jerry, let's go on a trip. I'll pay for it. Okay. What's your take on CU versus Utah? I think that we'll see you later, Utah. That's going to be a very difficult game for both teams. I think that Van Fillinger and that pass rush, Logan Fano, Those boys up front, that defensive line at Utah showed you that they're just fine. The pass rush showed you they're just fine. I think the biggest question on that Utah defense, and for any defense going up against Colorado, and I haven't seen if Jimmy Horn's going to play, but if you've got those 3 receivers healthy, there's 7 wide receivers deep at Colorado right now. And I think the weakness in that Utah defense is covering that wide receiver group. And it's not that they just catch the ball. I think it goes without saying that Shedeur Sanders he got such an ass whooping last year that has anybody noticed his accuracy under pressure? Has anybody noticed his ability now to run, to create a throwing lane? It's elite. It's why I think arguably he is the best quarterback in the country now. No doubt he's the best quarterback in the Big 12.
Right.
I think he's arguably the best quarterback in the country. I think he is the first quarterback taken in the draft next year.
Completely agree.
Because
I really don't think that's much of a conversation.
He's shown he's durable. He's shown that he has the ability to be under center or in the gun. He's shown that he can be really good in play action. And he's shown that he can now create the space necessary in a passing offense to get away from pressure to throw the football down the field.
Mm-hmm.
And he's developed the ability now to throw the football away, which he had never done previously. I think the biggest problem is I think Colorado accidentally scores 28 points. And I don't see any way Utah scores 28 points.
Right.
And that to me is the number. I was looking at some of the tape out of the BYU game. The quarterback is not even the biggest problem for Utah now. Brant Keithy's injury really brings the safeties and linebackers closer to the line of scrimmage. And that is because Mekhi Bernard's your best weapon now. That's the reality of it. It is going to be really difficult for Utah to drive the length of the field without Brant Keithy.
The only thing I would say about Utah is that with Bernard, they've shown the ability to road grade teams. Like they did it against Baylor, and I know Baylor's mid, I know, but they have the ability to turn around and move you and let Bernard get 5 yards a carry, 4 yards a carry. And they can run for first downs when they want to. They can kind of switch into that mode. And I would not be surprised to see a lot of that against Colorado.
I think the biggest problem that I have is now the safeties don't have anybody to worry about. And Brant Keithy, and most people probably don't recognize this, but Brant Keithy requires you to shade the safety to his side of the formation. And you don't have to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. And you don't have anybody that is dynamic there.
How much of it is also that they don't have anything to play for anymore? Like,
I think they're on a mission. Utah is not going to lay down. If anything, Utah will play harder because they are going to force you to I think they are going to force you to keep your spot on this roster next year. And you look at the fact that a guy like Mekhi Bernard is still averaging 5.8 yards per carry. And what do they have to lean on offensively? The offensive line, specifically center, right guard, right tackle. That's the strength of that Utah offense, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I think you look at like a guy like a Dorian Singer. Dorian Singer's not who he says he is. Is it because of the quarterback situation? Sure, absolutely could be. But you're not scared of Dorian Singer. You're not scared of, like, you look at the production between Brant Keithy and Money Parks. That's 56 catches, 800 yards, and 9 touchdowns gone.
Yeah.
You don't overcome that. You don't overcome that. And I don't even know. I think Mekhi Bernard is who you scheme in this offense because he catches the ball, he runs the ball, and he is absolutely a safety outlet. And my question is, with Cam Rising and Brandon Rose out, how do you now turn back to Isaac Wilson and say, you're my guy?
I just think you gotta accept it. You like, if you're Utah, I gotta imagine, again, I'm just speculating here, just my opinion. I gotta imagine that there's been conversations with Isaac Wilson about like, hey, dude, like this is our situation. Obviously, you understand that this team has suffered massive injury.
Yep.
And you've been handed a situation that, while not ideal, is what you have to work with and what you have to deal with. And you have to show us like what you're capable of here. And so I think in this game, like the comment was, what do we expect? I don't expect Utah to win this game, certainly. But what I do expect Utah to do is get after Shedeur. And I would expect Shedeur to wouldn't be surprised if Shedeur left, the game, not left it early, like completes the game, but leaves this game, hurting a bit, like having been punished a bit. And I think that's what Utah's pride is going to be at this point is like, hey, we're just going to beat you up and we're going to prove a point. And you may beat us, and that's fine. But, that's not really saying much anymore.
Yeah.
But we're going to come out here and do the things that we want to do. And if for Isaac Wilson, all I want to see him do is just understand what he's trying to do on offense better. Like just understand, okay, it's 3rd and 4. My OC is called a play action pass. What am I looking for in this look? Like basically just good fundamentals on the tape. That's all I think you can expect.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see who steps up for Utah because they are. I mean, you have. I think you have a lot of talent on that team. It's just a matter of is Isaac Wilson a guy that you can count on? Is he a guy that you can turn back around to now that you took the ball from him and say, yep? Because I don't think you have another option here. You don't have another option. You're going to Isaac Wilson. What do you do at this point? I don't know. And frankly, you're not solving that at Colorado.
No, you're not.
You're not solving that at Colorado. Norge Koog, what happened to the Utah deep tight end room? What do you mean? They have phenomenal tight ends. They have a grouping of tight ends that I think most teams, certainly in this league and in this country, would drool over. That's why I said it's not a Utah talent thing. And casual BYU fan coming in and being a red ass about Utah, bro, it's played.
Yeah.
To me, you went with this comment, you tell me you have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, you're going to have to do better.
Yeah, just tell me you have no clue about Utah football without telling me you have no clue.
And it does go without saying. I guess I didn't feel like we needed to explain this, but Brant Keithy's an NFL tight end, man. I mean, you don't just generally
he's an
speaking,
NFL wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, just generally speaking, you can have a deep tight end room, but still lose the best guy in that room and understand that there's going to be, there's a fall off there. I mean, not every tight end and not every football player is good enough talent wise, just raw talent wise, to play on Sundays, let alone an upperclassman that's had elite development and has turned himself into a great route runner and catcher of the football. Like that's the stuff that's underrated. So there is no doubt they have a good tight end room, a really good tight end room, but there's still fall off there.
Yeah. We'll see. UW Van Gin, if Baylor goes to West Virginia and win, they save their season. Baylor has lost to every good football team they have played.
Yeah. And they're irrelevant. Nobody, with all due respect.
That's why they're a 500 football team. And I know Baylor fan gets a red ass, but when you lose to Utah, Colorado, BYU, and Iowa State, and your wins are Air Force, Tech, Oak State, and TCU, are we supposed to be impressed with that?
Texas Tech, how, dude? How?
Are we supposed to be impressed with that? Because you scored 59 on a bad Texas Tech defense.
Man.
And now you've got to go to West Virginia, at Houston, and then you finish up at home against Kansas.
Yeah.
We'll find out. West Virginia is a tough trip, man. West Virginia, man. Neil Brown's 4-2. If they win this game, they're bowl eligible. Can you really fire Neil Brown at that point? And it's the same thing.
Survives another year.
It's the same thing with Mr. Clean in Waco.
Yeah.
If they go to a bowl, can you fire Dave Aranda? And it goes back to the Baylor president. You're trying to call a meeting of every administrator in power conferences, and you're not willing to fire Dave Aranda. I'm not going to take you seriously. Baylor needs to fire Dave Aranda, period. West Virginia needs to fire Neil Brown.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Right? Like you look at, again, I tell you, TCU's bowl eligible. If they beat Arizona and Cincinnati and they win 8 games, are you firing Sonny Dykes? Probably not. Should Sonny be fired? Probably not.
It's the Mike Gundy syndrome.
But
right?
You're good enough not to get fired. That doesn't mean you're good.
Yeah.
Or that you've done enough. That's a real problem in this league. It is a real problem in this league that there is a lot of mediocrity that's disguised in going to bowl games. And it's Oak State's the best example. Oh, well, we go to bowl games. Who cares?
But think about how far it's gone with Mike, right? Like you have Oklahoma State fans who regard Mike Gundy as like a living legend, bro. But this is not someone who's been to the college football playoff or won a national championship or like done.
Yeah.
Like I understand that he's had a couple of years where he's gone to New Year's Six Bowls and stuff, but it's not like you've had this just massive level of success. That's the crazy part.
Damian Fowler, I wouldn't necessarily say Shedeur will go number 1 because Prime said he's going to have a say in where he goes to play. That's not what he said. That's not what he said. And every number 1 pick has always said that. So they believing that there's a Prime effect on who drafts Shedeur, I think is crazy. What number 1 quarterback, including Caleb Williams, has not talked about their potential draft landing spots? Every one of them does it. Eric and Raleigh, Jerry Jones needs to add a 32nd level to Jerry World Dome to make sure CeeDee Lamb can find the ball without the sun in his eyes.
Yeah,
That's where the Dallas Cowboys are.
Yeah.
We're talking about sun in your eyes.
We ran that take out on Monday, bro.
Yeah. Shedeur with almost 73% completion percentage, by far the best QB with an average offensive line, which is crazy to me. CU will beat Utah by 10 or more, but then we'll lose to KU by 10 the following week. Okay. The Tater Man, we're going to find out who you are Saturday night in Provo.
Yeah, we're going to find out how much
that's a tough
you want
environment.
It, no question about it.
That is a tough environment. Very tough. Jay McClanahan, which team out of the middle teams can make a legit run at the end? Well, I mean, I think that's a really interesting question. I mean, if you look at the teams, TCU, for instance, with 2 games left in their bye week, Arizona is a very winnable, should win that game. Texas Tech is very interesting to me. Oklahoma State and West Virginia. And West Virginia's in Lubbock. You should win 8 games this year. You should win 8 games. You should be 6-3 in conference. And if that's the case, you'll be top 5 in the conference.
Right.
Because let's not forget, Iowa State and K-State are going to run their faces into each other. Iowa State has a very difficult finish here. Cincinnati at Utah, K-State. That's not an easy road to finish. K-State, on the other hand, has Arizona State, Cincinnati, and then at Iowa State. They should win all 3 of those.
Yeah.
You should win all 3 of those. If you think Arizona State is going to be easy on Saturday night, you're out of your mind. Arizona State is at K-State, BYU, and Arizona. If you win 2 out of those 3, Kenny Dillingham should get a lifetime contract.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a 9-win football team. I said Arizona State's a 9-win football team at that point. 9 wins with that roster. Unbelievable. West Virginia, Baylor, UCF, and then at Tech. If you win 2 of those 3, you're a 7-win football team. Are you firing Neil Brown if he's 7-5?
Still pretty mid, dude.
But exactly. Are you firing Neil Brown if he wins 7 games?
I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but 8 wins feels so much better than 7.
It does.
Like, it's only 1 more win, but it just feels so much better.
I believe it's completely different. I don't know. I think it's very interesting to see how all that plays out.
Yeah.
And what a year in the Big 12 that this has been. I mean, my God. The stadium guy, James, Mike Gundy is like Kirk Ferentz at Iowa, a good coach who has been consistent. He's good. He's not great. Okay. The mea culpa has begun. The Big 12 Conference are not a top 4 seed in the playoff. Based on what math are you doing? Because let's surmise that BYU or Colorado wins the conference championship. You don't think they're getting a bye? Yeah, they are. Yeah, the ACC has that problem because now almost no matter who wins, if Boise State wins out, Boise State will be ranked in the top 12 and will likely be ranked higher than the ACC conference champion. That's the problem. That's what you're looking at. Tanner Plummer, BYU needs to blow the F out of Kansas. Hey, watch your mouth.
Yeah, this is a family program, dude, and I don't know why, why we have to use that kind of language.
Program.
Little extra in the envelope this Sunday, sir. Their lack of style points continues to be one of the knocks on them. They're not going to try and humiliate people.
And I think that's a problem. That's a problem.
Fat old Mormon and dying. For everyone, everyone remember Colorado lost to a bad Nebraska team. But when did they do that? Very early in the season. Go balance. Style points are a reality. I realize that, but it makes me sick to my stomach, is what it is. Because what you're trying to do is leave an imprint on the brain of the people sitting at that table.
Yeah.
Eric in Durham, 8 SEC, 3 Big Ten, 1 G5. Seriously. Do you guys wonder about who gets in and who doesn't? Do you guys, like, if you look at this, are we getting 17 Big Ten teams into the college football playoff?
I think so, dude. I think it's all Big Ten. Yeah.
Did you guys see that Pedo State has solicited their season ticket holders for a potential home game in the college football playoff? So they know they're not playing for a Big Ten championship. Ohio State at 2. It's probably pretty solid. Oregon, Penn State. Does Indiana make the college football playoff?
I think they will, yeah.
That's 4. Is Indiana? I know we've talked about this.
Again, it depends what you do against Ohio State. If you
is
look
Indiana on par with Ohio State?
If you look like an absolute clown against Ohio State, like if it's 40-10,
it's a clown car, bro.
If you look really bad against Ohio State, you're probably not getting in. But again, if it can just be, 27-24, 31-28.
I think I would really pay attention to Camp Randall Stadium. Saturday night at 5:30 Mountain Time, 6:30 Central. Camp Randall Stadium, Oregon, Wisco. And it is going to be very interesting to see how that game plays out.
Yes. By the way, everyone wants to talk about Deion going to the league. Mr. Oregon Duck, Mr. Huge inflatable
how about
everywhere.
This story? How about Mr. Float some ducks down the river?
Yeah.
Did you guys see the Dan Lanning NFL coaching candidate story? The good old Danny boy, is allegedly a candidate.
Yeah, he's quote generating buzz in the NFL that teams are looking at Dan Lanning and saying, man, this guy can really, this guy has good culture. Like, this guy could really make a difference at the NFL level. Dan Lanning turned down being the successor to Nick Saban to stay at Oregon. And my question to Dan Lanning is, as I would ask this of Deion Sanders, why would you leave your current position for the NFL? You have everything you've ever wanted. You
said no to Alabama.
You've got the power, the money. It's your team. You're running the show. You don't have some, 80-year-old white guy owner who is totally out of touch with reality, breathing down your neck every 2 seconds. Like, it's everything you want. And that's where I say Dan might be a good NFL coaching candidate. But, man, if I was him, I wouldn't change a thing. I would stay right there for a long time.
I think that's going to be very interesting. Dan Lanning should not leave. Dan Lanning should absolutely not leave.
No.
And
there's opportunity. I mean, if he said to himself, I want to leave, I mean, there's obviously opportunity, but I just can't believe, I mean, he is such a red ass college football coach.
he really is.
That I think he enjoys that grind too much to want to leave. And I look at the NFL versus college, and I just don't know. I don't feel like the NFL is necessarily more attractive than college football right now. I think we saw some turnover from some college coaches going to the league because they were tired of the NIL portal situation. But I think that's kind of settled down a little bit. I think people are starting to figure out how to use it now. And the masses, the boosters, and the money people are starting to get behind that. So it's become a little more palatable.
I would not leave Oregon.
No.
I think there are some good spots, but I would not leave Oregon. And the other thing I would point you to, did you guys see, do you guys know who Ohio State plays this week? More so, do you know where Ohio State is playing this week? The Palace, the Kingdom, the Field of Dreams.
First team all shower stall.
That'd be Wrigley Field against Northwestern. And I am here for it. Now, somebody will probably break a leg or an arm or die on the ivy because the end zone is directly up against the back wall of the right field wall at Wrigley. But that's going to be a hell of a game. Ohio State is a 28.5-point favorite at Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
And that game is 10 a.m.
As a
on
Cubs
the Big
season
Ten
ticket
Network.
holder, do you have tickets to that game?
I could have gotten tickets to that game. Yes, I could have. But that game's going to be interesting. There's some games this week, boys, that like, do you know how many of these games where like Utah can be a spoiler? You look at the fact that Kansas can be a spoiler, Northwestern can be a spoiler, even with their shower, car wash, naked sausage guy dude thing. Pitt can be a spoiler, even though I don't think Pitt was ever very good. Pitt has Clemson in Pittsburgh. That's going to be a tough game. Mercer. No, I'm sorry.
Where's Abilene?
Mercer plays at Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Nice off week for Alabama.
No line. There's no line on that game.
Could we see a 40 spot for a line? -40.
I don't think so. This isn't like I'm a little surprised that Oregon is 14 points at Camp Randall. I think that's a 10-point game. But could you see a 75-point line for Alabama over Mercer? And that's the first quarter line.
Right.
That could be ugly. That Tennessee-Georgia game, that's in Athens. Who?
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy. There are some games this weekend that are really intriguing. There are some games that I think could be absolutely difference-making. All right. The Monty Show is always presented by our good friends at The Advocates, theadvocates.com. Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears made huge changes. Wait until you hear. Just wait until you hear what DJ Moore said about the Chicago Bears offense after this from the Advocates.
Hi, Sarah. Your dad told me about your accident. Can you tell me how it happened?
Still kind of going through it, but I was stopped at a light, and then this car I heard it come up behind me, and bam, and it's kind of like in slow motion.
The Advocates at theadvocates.com. That's how it goes. You get into an advocate, you get into an accident, you call the Advocates. They're going to fight for you. You're going to detail your situation. Hey, what did you see? How did it happen? They're going to put it all together, and they are going to absolutely get you the best possible outcome, which is why you need clear, risk-free advice on one of the worst days of your life. Get to theadvocates.com. Chat with an injury attorney live online 24/7, 365, and it won't cost you a dime at theadvocates.com. Let's talk about the Chicago Bears.
The Bears, the monsters of the Midwest.
How bad is this situation? And do you believe that Caleb Williams is a lost cause for the Chicago Bears.
Well, I wouldn't call him a lost cause. I think, you look around at other, like you compare and contrast to Caleb Williams, Chicago Bears, OC sort of situation the Bears have working right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you compare that to other teams in the league, like the Colts are going back to Anthony Richardson, which is shocking to me. I am very surprised by that. And I don't think the Bears are in the same place with Caleb Williams that those guys are with Anthony Richardson. I think you can look at the Bears and you can say, yeah, dudes like DJ Moore and, that wide receiver room, just are not being put in great positions.
Cole Kmet going targetless 2 weeks ago.
Like, how does that happen? And, I think that there's a lot of rumors that swirl around this team that are nothing to do with that wide receiver room and nothing to do, like the reporting. And this is what I love too. And I understand there's a lot of drama happening, but the reporting that dudes, veteran players on the team, didn't want Caleb
that veteran players went
and
to the coaching staff. And there are some reports out of Chicago that some of the veteran players on offense went to Ryan Poles and asked for Matt Eberflus to be fired. That was after the Washington game.
Mm-hmm.
Then after 2 weeks ago, veteran players went to Matt Eberflus and asked him to fire Shane Waldron. He would not. They asked him then to bench Caleb Williams. He would not. And then you had the debacle against New England. And you're in a situation now where you had no choice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you buy into the fact that the veterans don't want to play with Caleb Williams?
I don't.
I do not either.
I don't. I think that is the classic, hey, we're taking the situation too far. And, I think that one thing that nobody talks about from last year with Justin Fields versus this year with Caleb Williams is Caleb has, in my opinion, handled the situation really professionally. I don't think we've gotten we've played a bunch of his media stuff.
He has said it's about me.
Yeah.
I am not playing well enough. I am not making good decisions. I am not doing what I have to do.
Yeah. He hasn't made it about the team.
You haven't heard that. And then you listen to this bite from Bears wide receiver DJ Moore talking about what Shane Waldron did, or really more talking about what he did not do. And just, I'm warning you, put your hands at 10-2 because this is offensive.
I want to say probably like when we want to call, or it's probably like a drive too late, or like we wanted to make adjustments and we just wait till halftime to make it, and then we don't get the same look. So I can see what he mean by that.
So let me get this right. The players were going to the offensive coordinator in the middle of the game saying, hey, we're seeing this. We want to do this. And Shane Waldron was like, no. Well, let's make this adjustment here in the first quarter, at the end of the first quarter here. They're doing this. Let's try that. No. We'll make the adjustment at halftime. And the problem is the other team makes an adjustment, comes out, and you never get that set again. So the adjustment at halftime never happens. It's you're wasting time, you're wasting plays, and you're inept on offense.
Yeah.
Because Shane Waldron, the former Bears offensive coordinator, refused to make halftime adjustments.
Which is incredible to me. I don't
That's
understand how a coordinator just in the day to day, like you're in the middle of this football game in the first half, and your offense is struggling. Your wide receivers come to you and say, hey, this is what we feel and we see. Let's go this way or that way. And you're like, no, I can't. We're going to talk about it at halftime. I don't understand how that works just from like a coaching logic perspective. How do you sit there on the bench on national TV next to Caleb Williams and have him with that type of body language, and you're like making jokes and stuff or whatever he was saying? Like, that's what I don't get about the Bears sometimes. I don't get how they're just so far removed from like just classic football logic. Like it'd be different if, hey, we're trying to make adjustments. You can see them trying to do things and they're just not good enough. They're just not talented enough.
And my point is, just improve so that you can be a bad football team. Just improve a little bit so that you're not an inept, embarrassing football team. You're just a bad football team.
Mm-hmm.
And my problem is now you won those games early, which is great, But now you're an embarrassingly inept football team, the Bears are, and they have no shot at getting the number 1 pick. So you're not getting the best defensive player, the best offensive player, or the best offensive lineman. You're going to be somewhere in the middle of the first round based on the way things look now. And I don't know how you fix that. And then you listen to the new offensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears, or the interim, call him what you want. And why didn't you fire Shane Waldron sooner when you got a guy talking like this?
Yeah, here's what I say about fixing the problem. So it starts every day we walk in the building. What I said to the team today and to our offensive staff and players is 2 things you control when you walk in the building. It's your effort and your attitude. So it starts there first, right? How we approach the meetings, being detailed, being locked in, and transferring that to the actual practice field, being intentional about the walkthrough, but also making practice as hard as humanly possible so the game can somewhat become easier. So to me, that's going to be our focus, what we're locked in on. And so understand that practice preparation always leads to game day execution. So that's our focus. I think on game day, when it comes to how you deliver information, to be solution-oriented, to keep myself calm, also keep him calm as well, to kind of decompress it in every single drive we have, to kind of look forward to what's coming in the next drive.
Because what were Bears players saying? Practice isn't hard. They're not tackling. They're not in pads. Practice is not. Bears players have said that they didn't feel like they were being pushed in practice so that they could win on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And that's remarkable to me. That football is much like golf. Football and golf are 2 of the only sports where your practice has to get you ready to play the game. Baseball is a sport of repetition, right? Pitchers pitch bullpens, hitters take batting practice, repetition. There's not hey, practice has to be harder than the actual baseball game. That's not real. In football, in golf, in basketball, even to a certain extent. Like, football is a game of toughness, mental toughness. You have to, it's exactly what he said. You have to have a good attitude so that you can make a good effort, because you need a good effort in practice 4 days a week so that you're detail oriented. It pushes you and you remember and you commit it. And then on Sunday, it's effortless.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears are just the opposite. Sunday is what's the hardest thing that they see all week. Not Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Because frankly, Wednesday, Thursday, and a bit of Friday need to be the 3 hardest days of your week. Covering the NFL and covering really good teams, I can tell you point blank, the NFL teams in San Francisco when I covered the Niners, Jim Harbaugh was the head coach. I am telling you, guys were not happy with Wednesday and Thursday, because where did they go after practice? They went to their cold tubs. Because practice, you're running. You're like, it's amazing to me that we're sitting here talking about the Bears having to put pads back on. They're putting pads back on for practice because they're not tackling well on defense. That's crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
That you're in a place, and I agree, 9 days out of 10, you're not wearing pads in the NFL. But you're talking about, like, multiple crappy football teams this week said, hey, we're putting pads back on because we're not tackling well. The Bears are a mess.
And I just think
the Bears are absolutely a mess.
It's this whole thing where, you have a head coach who is just not good at what he does. And so that obviously flows down through the coaching staff and into the locker room. And I think that, it's crazy that, and again, this is why I ask about Ryan Poles. Like, he's done a good job building the roster. I don't have an issue with the roster construction, but I do have a big issue with identifying good coaching talent, because ultimately, like, it does take a village of people to make a good football team. You need your GM to build a good roster. You need then the head coach to go out and set the tone culturally speaking. And then you need the coordinators and the supporting staff to go out and teach the concepts. And that part right there of, hey, set good culture and then have your coordinators teach those concepts and instill those fundamentals is just simply not happening for the Bears. And that's where I say this is where bad organizations are gonna be bad organizations. It's why Jerry Jones and company always struggle. It's why the Bears struggle. It's why Jacksonville struggles, because teams just want to bring in whoever the hell they want as a head coach and think it's going to be perfectly fine. And it's not going to be fine. And at some point, you have to change that philosophy.
Yeah, and I don't know how you fix it. I also don't know how you fix Tua Tagovailoa. I want to root for this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to root for guys tackling with their faces. I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want my quarterbacks tackling with their faces. But apparently Tua disagrees with me.
It didn't feel as bad as what it probably may have looked like. When we watched it, our coach had said, that he sort of need you in the head. Essentially you're out there playing football. I didn't necessarily feel that. I wasn't just going to jump out of the way for him to just, run down the sideline and potentially score. So, you got to make decisions, and, I should never threw the pick in the first place.
If you're in that position again, what would you do differently?
I wouldn't do anything differently. I'll make the tackle. That's what I got to do.
Make it make sense. You're telling me that you again, in the NFL, I understand it's tough to tell a guy like a Tua, a Josh Allen, Caleb Williams, who's made tackles this year. It's tough to tell a guy, hey, you just threw an interception, don't go make a tackle. That's really difficult to do. But this guy, above all other guys, cannot be, okay, if you're going to make a tackle, my man, can you not use your flipping head? And then don't stand in front of the media and say you wouldn't change a thing and you do the exact same thing over again. That just make it make sense for me, because I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know how. See, again, and this is the part that I really struggle with. I can't relate to Tua. I don't understand the thought process or why he chooses the way or why he sort of believes or goes about it the way he does. Because this is somebody who and again, I respect his right to make the decision, but I don't understand it. I don't understand why you can't say to yourself, hey, I just threw an interception. I'm out here in the middle of this game. I know heading into this game, I got to protect myself more. You'd have thought that this dude would have at least I understand he's not going to go high on the guy, but you'd have thought that he'd at least just gone waist level. Let me just, because obviously you can't just run through a human. If Tua would have just stood in his way, basically, there were 3 guys chasing him. Those guys would have brought him down.
Just make him, they teach you as a quarterback in the NFL is don't make forceful contact when you're trying to tackle. Yeah. Make him change directions. It's what they teach punters and kickers.
Yeah.
Make him change direction, because we have guys busting their ass. He had teammates right there. Are we being too hard on Tua? I guess that's a question I have for the comment section.
I don't think we're being too hard on him. I think that, so look, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, okay, yeah, I know I'm a concussion guy, but it's my right to choose to play in the league and continue to do this, but then also have no ability to say, yeah, I'm going to do everything I can to mitigate risk. Obviously, you would, it's like when you're riding a motorcycle, you have the right to ride the motorcycle, but just as a human instinct survival mechanism, you probably would wear a helmet. Most people would probably pop a helmet on. You don't have to. You can go out and do that, but most people are going to put a helmet on. This guy, I can't empathize with it or understand it or reason with it, because I don't understand why you're going low head first.
Don't know.
Injure your legs, injure your ribs, injure your body. You can replicate all those, man. You can regrow them. You can heal them. You can whatever. But the idea that you went low and people have to ask you, would you do anything different? And you say, no, I wouldn't do anything different. I can't do that. I would never have the guy on my team.
Calford gives 10 Monty Show membership. Try to keep up, Skippy.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
I'm kidding. Brandon Butler, a member for 22 months. The way you fix it is eject Eberflus from the Bears bus. Please speak it into existence, Brandon.
But
Please.
see, again, it's not.
Please.
How many times are we going to have to ask the question about the head coach of the Chicago Bears? I've been asking that question since I was a kid, bro. Like how many times am I going to have to ask about Matt Nagy?
But
Nagy,
look at what this team does. You hire coaches who don't draft those quarterbacks. You hire GMs who don't hire those coaches who didn't draft that quarterback.
Yeah.
So now you're going to fire Shane Waldron. Now you're going to bring in another guy. And next year you're going to bring in a new head coach and a new offensive coordinator. And Caleb Williams is not their quarterback.
Start the cycle over again.
That's the problem with this team. You don't have the consistent voices in Caleb's head or in any quarterback's head. We routinely, as a matter of practice in Chicago, hire the wrong guy with the wrong people, whether it's John Fox, Matt Nagy, Matt Eberflus. You have the wrong guy with the wrong people.
Yeah.
Repeatedly. Do you guys understand that and this number should hurt your head if you're a Bears fan? Firing Shane Waldron is the 8th coach that Matt Eberflus has fired off of his staff. We only hire the best people.
It's terrible, bro. Like,
that's the 8th coach he's fired. How, man? I don't understand it. This is all on the head coach. Yes, it is.
And again, I don't understand how we find ourselves. And again, this is why I ask about Ryan Poles, because at some point we got to stop asking about Eberflus and start climbing the ladder.
I think Poles has done a really good job bringing talent into this team.
Agreed.
There's not his main weakness now is the offensive line. And as an offensive lineman, he should know better. That's the position he played. He's done a terrible job with Matt Eberflus, but I don't even think Eberflus was his guy. I think he inherited Eberflus. Do you allow him to fire Eberflus and hire his own head coach? I would hope you do. I don't think Ryan Poles is the problem in Chicago. I do not. San Diego State, Glenn, another leadership quality. Do you empower your people? Well, apparently not. Welcome to the nightmare. Tua is always mindful and takes things head on.
See what he did there.
She's a mind ahead of the concussions.
Man, dude.
Tip of the spear.
Right.
You know,
right.
I read that one already. Fat Jesus, it didn't hurt as bad as it looked because I lost all feeling in my head for 3 games now.
You know,
you're not wrong. Fat Jesus, you're so good. You are so good. San Diego State, Glenn. Tua, 3, 4, gonna.
Yeah.
Tua.
Right.
3.
Right.
See what he did there?
Yes.
It's called mitigation. It's called mitigation, the threat, Tua. You know what said threat is. You do. You do. And mitigating the threat would be great. Old Tatanka. Jake doesn't understand cause he is soft and un-American. Okay. Are you soft and un-American?
If he says so.
You know. Okay. Jeff Johnson, much respect for Tua, but I ride with no helmet. Yeah, exactly. And Donuts, how are you, friend? Tua is too hard on Tua. He can't leave the game he's trained most of his life doing.
But I'm not even asking you not to play.
Yeah.
That's not even what I'm saying. I'm saying don't be an idiot out there.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
I don't know what you do. Brandon Bootlair. We haven't had the coach since Lovey, and even then he was questionable. God, that white beard that Lovey rocks is amazing. Lincoln Riley to the Bears as head coach.
Yeah.
Better than Matt Eberflus. Now, the problem is he obviously has had a defensive problem.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure we can say he's better than Matt Eberflus.
I don't think he is. You are not hiring Lincoln Riley to be the head coach of the Bears coming out of this USC situation. Now, you want to rock with Cliff Kingsbury? I'd be okay with Cliff as a head coach. I'm not letting him hire his defense. I'm probably hiring a defensive coordinator for him because that was a huge problem and I think Kyler Murray wasn't the right guy in Arizona. Caleb Williams is the exact right guy for Cliff Kingsbury's offense. And his offense is dominant. There is no question about that. Give me somebody who can make Caleb Williams an all-pro quarterback because the talent is clearly there. The issue is the head coach.
Yeah.
Calford gives 10 more Monty Show membership. Nice job, Calford. Appreciate you. Don't forget Giving Friday tomorrow on the show. Kaner and BYU 12-0 top 5. Let's win Saturday first and then say 12-0. You got 3 more games
the problem.
left.
That's the problem for BYU. People don't trust them. There's no trust.
Big trust.
Big trust.
Big trust.
Whoop, whoop, not there.
Big
Not there.
trust.
Can't, like in the SEC, you can say, yeah, Georgia's going to beat the rest of their teams, or Texas or Bama or Ole Miss or whoever you want to point to, but we're not there yet with BYU. So it's week to week.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. I think that the biggest issue is you have to not get ahead of yourself. What did the girl say the other day on the show? Don't get
out over your skis.
Yes, thank you. Don't get out over your
Miriam.
skis. Miriam, thank you. Don't get out over your skis. I would agree with that. I would also agree it's Thursday. That means we have Thursday Night Football. Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Prize Picks is very interesting tonight. Let's do some Prize Picks on Thursday Night Football because I think this is one of the more difficult Thursday Prize Picks to go with. Jaden Daniels, 227.5 passing yards. More or less?
I would say more.
You think more?
Yeah. It's a rivalry game. Yeah.
You think more. He's only done that 2 out of the last 5 weeks, and he didn't do it against Pittsburgh or the New York Giants.
Mm-hmm.
He did it against the Bears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the problem is they're going to need him to do that. They're going to be passing a lot in this game, I think. But
I think that is a huge
There's probably
question
other.
mark.
There's probably other. I mean, A.J. Brown for a rushing receiving touchdown on a demon is awesome.
I think you got to take Jalen to have a rushing or receiving touchdown. There is no doubt about that. What do you, man? I also think the Jaden Daniels 1 passing touchdown. Do you go with 2 passing touchdowns for Jaden Daniels? I think that's really tough. I think I go with Jake Elliott for 2 field goals. I think that's where I'm at on Thursday Night Football. Jaden Daniels more than 227.5. Jalen Hurts a rush receiving touchdown, and Jake Elliott to kick 2 field goals.
Yeah. Okay.
Pimp's going to slap. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I like that.
That's what I got.
That works. Yeah.
Prize Picks. Download the app right now. Ding. Use the promo code Monty.
Not Morty.
Monty Monty. You deposit $5, they'll give you 50 more instantly at Prize Picks, America's favorite daily fantasy app, which is where I went on the NBA.
Yes.
Which is what happened last night. Because again, I think I hit it every time.
Mm-hmm.
Jake, how good are the LA Lakers?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Lakers are solid. They're playing good basketball right now. I think they're in that group of teams that is playing good to start the year. I think that there are a lot of teams in the league that, start the season a certain way and then finish the season another way. And I think the Lakers are exactly that team. They're going to start the season really well. And let's see how healthy they can stay. If they stay healthy, they're one of the best teams in the league. They're playing good defense. I like the job JJ Redick is doing so far. I think that, you can see the buy-in to his system. You can see they're trying to play the game the right way. And I think that's why you're seeing LeBron put up the numbers he's able to put up, because they're running good offense. He's moving the ball. He's finding guys, like they're doing the things they need to do. But I still don't ignore the fact that Anthony Davis is someone that in his career, and with the exception of last year, has struggled with injuries. So if he can stay healthy, I think they stay right in that Western Conference playoff mix for sure. And I think this is a year where the Lakers really need to be, a top, 5 team in the West. You need to play better basketball and get out of the play-in tournament conversation. And then, I look around the NBA and there are a lot of teams that are just not off to a great start, and you wonder when they're going to kick it into gear. And unfortunately, most of those teams are in the East. The Western Conference is still looking as deep as it's looked. So, like I say, the Lakers are playing good basketball. JJ Redick's off to a really good start in his first year as a head coach, but it's going to come down to how healthy they can stay. Because if they stay healthy, they're going to continue to be a problem.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you 100% that we haven't seen much change, but I am going to sit here and espouse the greatness of LeBron James again. With as bad as the Suns were last night, and you start looking at the teams that are really playing good basketball in the West. I think that is OKC certainly is the best team. I think OKC is the best team in the NBA. I think Golden State's a fluke. And I look at the Lakers at 7-4. I think it is with a rookie head coach, which you mentioned with JJ, being 7-4, I think is actually a real big tip of the cap to them. And I think it's because LeBron's playing at a very high level. I think did they beat up on Memphis because Memphis didn't have Ja Morant? Sure, I don't even care. That's the game that we play now. Star players don't play a lot of games, but you look at that win and you look at the way they won that game and you look at this 3-game heater they're on with Toronto, Philly, and now Memphis. That was a savage performance out of LeBron James last night. And the fact that he went and won me my Prize Picks bread with 35, 14, and 12.
Yeah, and I think that see those.
God damn.
Like, obviously, he's put up triple doubles in his career, of course, and he's shown to be that kind of player. But I think JJ Redick's system is helping him at this age put up those kind of numbers. Like, again, I always say this in sports. Like, if you put your best players in a position to be successful more often, you're going to get good results. And I think that's what JJ's system does, is it puts LeBron into matchups that are favorable. And sometimes that means that Bron's on the ball, and other times that means Bron's off the ball. And it really depends. And this is what I love about JJ Redick so far, is that JJ has the ability to say, okay, who's on the floor for the other team, and who do I have on the floor, and how can we maximize this situation from an offensive standpoint? And it's why I think you're getting all of this action where it's Bron and a secondary player on the elbow without the ball, and they're running a play where someone's going to be wide open.
Rui last night.
Yeah.
3 of 4. And here's the problem with the Lakers. The Lakers need this Rui Hachimura. That you need him, in my opinion, you need him to shoot a high percentage. He's got to shoot 35% from 3 for them to win a lot of games. And yes, Austin Reeves, I think, is playing good basketball. 18-6 last night, which is really good. I think the biggest question is, when are you going to trade D'Angelo, and what are you going to get for him? How much better and how much more can you get out of Dalton Knecht if you're the Lakers? Because I think he's shown you a couple of performances, and he's a rookie and he has been wildly inconsistent. I would agree with that.
You would expect.
19 points, but then he's coming off of a run of 5-5, 3, 2, and 5. And then 19 points. So I agree. You expect him to have some rough spots, but JJ Redick, I think, is doing a really good job. I think that they are a top 5 team in the West when the season's over, but they've got to trade D'Angelo, because that is clearly a spot where they've got to improve. When your starting 5 are Reeves, Reddish, LeBron, Rui, and Anthony Davis.
Yeah, gotta upgrade Reddish. Gotta upgrade.
I don't know. I think Cam Reddish is giving you what you need. He is really good defensively. And I think he's doing a really nice job of playing 20 minutes a night and giving you a really productive line. They're better. I'll be honest with you. They are better, in my opinion, with Dalton Knecht on the floor on defensively. Well, because he's more active and I think because he's a try-hard guy right now. I think they're better with him on the floor.
And he can shoot the 3. So, on offense, you're able to spread the floor more. And then because of that, you're getting higher quality possessions, which means that on the defensive end, you're not being put in compromised positions. And I maintain the biggest issue for D'Lo, and why I agree they should move him, is because when D'Lo's bad, you're putting up a bunch of 3s from him, and they're long rebounds, and then he gets his ass beat on the defensive end with regularity. So you can't lose both sides of the ball. You can't, as a player, be someone who on your bad shooting night is also getting torched on the defensive end. That doesn't work in the NBA. And that's where I say, you can hate on guys like Dalton Connect, or, even a lot of people hate on Reeves. Like, you can hate on those guys for maybe not being the strongest offensive contributors, but they work their ass off on the defensive end and at least are a positive that way and can create momentum that way. So I think for the Lakers, I would agree. You got to move. You got to move D'Lo, but when you move D'Lo this year, you have to get somebody who, at a minimum, is a contributor on the defensive end. And hey, if they give you 10, 12 points a night, okay, great, perfect. If the guard you bring in for D'Lo can give you 5 to 7 assists, maybe push that on a great night to 10 assists, awesome. That's great. You want to give JJ Redick as many ways to win a ball game as possible. But what you can't have is a guy who's negative on both sides. You can't do that.
And donuts for $10. Thanks for the chats. Boarding a plane. Have a great weekend. Travel safe, my friend. We'll talk to you next week. Appreciate you very much. Jeremy Bolton. I'd rather watch James Houston sit in Gatorade than watch the NBA, let alone the Lakers.
Well,
okay.
That's your prerogative, bro.
Okay.
That's your...
Did you guys, speaking of James Houston...
Yeah.
You didn't get that.
No.
Dang. Travis Kelce. Pretty much on their podcast, the Kelce brothers talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason Kelce talked about shatting himself.
Jason Kelce says on their podcast that he doesn't believe he sat in Gatorade, that he believes that James Houston shat himself, and that this is why he hates wearing white pants, because this has happened to him before. He told a story where it happened to him in pregame, and he had to go take all his equipment off and basically shower from the waist down because it was so bad, and get a new set of pants, and said it looked exactly the same for him as it did for James Houston.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
But yeah, I don't know. NBA viewership is down, as a lot of people have noted. And I don't know if people just if you just despise the league because of the fouls or what. Like, I enjoy NBA basketball.
I love NBA basketball. Yeah. I'm passionate about the NBA. Like that Victor Wembanyama performance last night, dropping 50. A 50-piece nugget.
Yeah.
I think
Victor's the way.
I think that's one of the great performances that we've seen in the NBA this year. And as much as I don't think that Victor's a championship player, you can't argue what he is doing. And that he scores 50 points. What is my complaint going to be? Well, he almost lost the game, and he only gave you 6 rebounds and 2 assists. And I think that when he scores 50 points, he does it on his own. And so for my money, I'd much rather see him score 40 points and have a triple-double. I'd much rather see Victor Wembanyama have a 30-point triple-double and they win by 20.
Yeah.
That's what I would much rather see.
Yeah, and he's done that this year. And I think, it's I also think it's tough too. Like, you understand the Spurs are going through this Popovich stroke incident that they're dealing with. I think, you also have to understand that when you play with a guy who's the size of VW and, his style of play, there are some nights where it's going to be tough not to give him the ball, where it's like, he's hot, give him the ball. Like, that's the problem.
For them to win, I think he has to have 30-point, at least double-doubles.
Yeah.
He has to be 30 and 12 to 15 rebounds for them to win. And I think when he does that, they're damn near unbeatable. When he puts up, like, I'm looking at his game log, they beat Sacramento. He had a 34-14 night, right? They beat Portland. He has a 12-8 night. It's Portland. They're terrible. I look at Minnesota. He has 17-6. They win 113-103.
Mm-hmm.
25-9. They win. Houston, 29-7. They win.
Mm-hmm.
When he has his biggest games, I think the issue is they can't win. It is I shouldn't say they can't. It's much more difficult for them to win when Victor's scoring like 50 points.
Yeah, and I think, part of Victor's development is going to be what LeBron's talked about so much over his career is like, okay, once you get to a certain point in the league, teams start doubling you and sending the defense to you, which we're already seeing with Victor, but he's going to have to learn how to move the ball a proper way to get his guys open. And I think that's what's tough, man, with star players. Some star players can have the vision and understand, okay, 3 steps ahead of me, I'm going to get the ball. That means the weak side wing's going to be open. I need to skip it over there, or like whatever. Like that process should be happening in a matter of seconds for a guy like VW. He should be able to know, okay, I'm walking up the left side of the floor, ball's on the right side of the floor. We're going to run this set. It's going to come to me, and the defense is going to double.
Yep. Hondo P, brah. San Diego State Glenn. Mason Plumlee got torched on defense and offensively stunk last night versus the Kings.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the same team without Kevin Durant, who's hurt again.
Yep.
What else is there to say? I mean,
it's very clear, dude. Father Time's catching up.
Devin Booker last night, 18 points, 5 dimes, 3 rebounds, 1 of 4 from 3. You're not beating the Kings with that line. Because who else do you have? Josh Okogie's your leading scorer. Yeah, you're losing most of those games.
Yeah.
Right? Because what did you get from Brad Beal last night? Oh, wait, that's right. He didn't play. Like this, I'm telling you, roster construction for the Suns is a huge problem. And Yusuf Nurkic is a waste of a contract. It's a waste of a contract. And don't get me started on the Suns. Brandon Butler, Lakers are putting way too many miles on LeBron and AD to start the season. They don't have enough in gas in the tank to keep up this pace. I think one of the things that LeBron and AD have talked about is the work they did in the summer to do that. They put, and I think JJ Redick's talked about this. If they're getting blown out, LeBron's not playing the fourth quarter. I think that's exactly the right way to go.
Agreed.
When you're in games and you can win games, LeBron and AD want to play 82 and they want to be in the game and they want the ball in their hands.
And frankly, I think this is more about AD than LeBron. LeBron has shown he can, like, I know he's getting older. I know he's 39 years old, going to turn 40. I know. But until the narrative changes, until he shows he can't do it, you got to believe he can, because frankly, he has. Like, this is someone who's shown you outside of the year after the bubble season? He had that lower leg, high ankle sprain situation he was dealing with. Outside of that, what major injury has this guy really dealt with? He takes care of his body. Yeah. He is ready.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that the only thing, it's like what I said when we started talking NBA today. Anthony Davis is the guy you got to pay attention to. He's the most important player on their roster. If you keep him healthy, they will be good.
Yeah, and Jeremy Bolton, you're not wrong here. And that is that your interest is at an all-time low this year. A lot of people's interest is at an all-time low. And I again, back to Victor Wembanyama, I know that VW is this amazing player. He is a 0 off the court.
Mm-hmm.
He does not move merchandise. He does not do interviews. He's Shohei Ohtani. He is Mike Trout. It's what's plaguing baseball. Who's the magnetic superstar in Major League Baseball right now? I don't know either. Who's the face of Major League Baseball right now?
Oh, it's Ohtani.
And what does that do for you from a branding perspective?
Nothing good.
Nothing. Now, if you want to talk about the Pacific Rim and Japan, boom. Cubs and Dodgers in Japan, boom.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I totally get it. The problem is there is not a gravitational personality in Major League Baseball. I also think this young crop of stars coming into the NBA they don't have personalities.
And I also think the storylines of the NBA, like remember what we had, and this is something I think y'all got to appreciate and understand where we are. Like, we had prime Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Golden State Warriors. I'm talking pre-Kevin Durant. The Golden State Warriors in their prime coming up to win those championships against Miami Heat, LeBron James and company. Like,
I agree.
That's not something that you just get all the time in the league. Like, you're talking about prime LeBron James at the peak of his powers against the Golden State Warriors And those two being in separate conferences, dominating their conferences to meet in the NBA Finals. That's why viewership was at an all-time high. And conversely, why it's at an all-time low right now, because again, people are waiting for the next thing. It's why Tatum's such a problem. It's why Anthony Edwards needs to grow up and turn into the guy we need him to be. Like, we needs to step forward, and they're not right now.
Yeah, I think the NBA absolutely has a branding problem. I would agree with that. As a Bulls and Jazz supporter, the product on the court are like watching paint dry. Why would I want to watch that? Again, I'm going to Chicago in April. I'm going to see Connor Bedard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to see whoever it is the Bulls have on the floor. I'm not willing to support it. And again, I won't go to a Jazz game this year for a lot of reasons. Mainly, they're in the pooper for Cooper.
Right.
Again. And I just think when you have such poor ownership with the Jazz and the Bulls, you shouldn't expect them to win. You
totally agree.
So I can't spend money on it.
Yeah.
Right. But you look at the NHL and you look at the hockey product. I'm going to support the Blackhawks. I'm going to support the Chicago Cubs. I'm going to the Symphony in Chicago. I'm going to support small business at Superdog. Like, I'm not supporting the Chicago Bulls. I am not. Fat Jesus, the NBA needs Caitlin Clark. Cooper Flagg can be that guy. He's at Duke. He is a good player. He is going to be the first overall pick without a question.
Yeah, the NBA needs a story, dude. The NBA needs some sort of something to work and cultivate. Like, that's why I'm saying that the whole, because remember what it was before Warriors and Heat, Warriors and Cavs, right?
Yeah.
Basically the Warriors versus Bron. It was Kobe versus the Celtics. It was like we had, younger Kevin Durant versus Bron in the Miami Heat when it was Thunder and Heat in the finals that one year. Like, we had these different options that were happening in the league, and it was a golden era. It was. And it was the second golden era, I believe, the league's had. You had a golden era when it was Michael and Magic and Bird and those guys. And then you had yet another one come up in the 2000 draft and beyond, obviously. And now we don't have that. And now I'm left having to sit here and be like, all right, well, what's our mediocre ass matchup in the NBA tonight? Like frankly, I'm not watching Lakers Memphis because it's Memphis. I'm only watching it because it's Bron. That's it. Like, I'm like, oh, man, this is a great, like,
but it's this comment right here about a guy like Luka Doncic. He's not likable.
Yeah.
Is Joel Embiid likable? He's not really likable. Is Giannis Antetokounmpo likable? He's not really likable.
Look at that. That's a great example. Look at the fall from love of the Bucks and Giannis. Nobody likes you. Nobody wants the Bucks to win anything. Dame going there, absolute mistake.
Zero.
Absolute mistake. Like, terrible. Like, where are you going next, Dame? Like, you messed it up. And I can't believe I'm saying that. And I feel bad for Dame. That was a pretty obvious decision that seemed like it would work, and then it just didn't.
You don't have a young gravitational superstar in this league that you can be like, that's my dude. I love that guy. You like watching Victor Wembanyama play.
Mm-hmm.
But are you like, man, he said to drink Sprite. I better go drink Sprite. Does anybody know what shoe does Victor Wembanyama wear? You have no idea. You don't know. And to me, that's a huge issue. Giannis isn't a shoe guy. Giannis isn't a commercial guy. I'm not being like Mike. Hell, I have one of the greatest marketing pieces ever made hanging in my studio. The Like Mike Gatorade poster. Like, I'm telling you guys, that's the problem in this league. When Steph Curry retires, the last great marketable superstar may go with him because LeBron's not going to be here forever. Steph probably plays longer than LeBron, I would guess. But who's that guy? It's not Devin Booker's not that guy.
KD's past it.
KD's not that guy.
No.
This league needs
not that guy.
This league needs Cooper Flagg to come in here and light the world on fire. They need him to win Rookie of the Year. They need Cooper Flagg to be what Victor Wembanyama is, but with personality and likability.
You know, the other thing too with that, I agree with that completely. The other thing that strikes me about the not having the rivalry thing I was talking about earlier is there's not like a side to pick. Like there's not like okay, maybe you don't have a really marketable guy in the league anymore. But if you have a rivalry, let's say, if you have like, Bron versus KD or something, or like some kind of, you need some sort of tangible like rivalry or heat between two teams on the floor to make a matchup great. And we just don't have that anymore. And I think part of that is that all these dudes, because of social media, everyone knows they're all friends. No, Steph doesn't hate LeBron. LeBron doesn't hate Steph. KD doesn't hate Bron. Bron doesn't hate KD. Like, they're all boys. We know that. And maybe that's the bigger issue in the league, is that we don't have Jordan rules anymore. We don't have, hey, I'm going to punch you in the face if you think about like stepping to me in the paint. Like, we don't do that anymore.
No.
And maybe that's the problem. Maybe the league, like, I agree the league's gotten softer, but maybe now it is in fact too soft.
We need what we saw out of Steph the other night when he beat Dallas. We need more of those moments, and we just don't get enough of them. All right. Big Daddy Magic. Well, we know where this is going.
Victor's the way.
Victor's the youngest player to get 50. Victor Wu Humble Cooper Flag. Will Humble Cooper Flag. The Jazz can capture the flag. They could capture Marge, but Victor will never let him get to the finals. He's about to own it. He's on one of the worst teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
The San Antonio Spurs are nowhere near the NBA finals. The NBA product is almost forcing me to like Alex Caruso. Wow. Punch myself in the face. Victor is salt of the earth. Nobody's saying Victor's a bad guy, but nobody wants to be like Victor. Nobody wants to buy his shoes. I'm sure his jerseys sell well.
He's a spectacle, not a relatable guy.
Yeah, he is. I think the difference between a guy like Bron and Victor Wembanyama is Victor is an animal in the circus.
Yeah.
LeBron is the circus. Right? That's the thing that you have to remember, is that you have to be gravitational. Do you watch Victor Wembanyama play? Of course you do. Of course you do. Is he ever an all-time great? Maybe. But if a bear farts in the woods, or excuse me, if a bear sits in Gatorade in the woods, but there's nobody there to question whether he shat himself, did he really sit in Gatorade?
Yeah.
Okay. Chrissy, do you see what that's the Gatorade?
Yeah, it's all connected and works together. You see that?
Cooper Flag will not be Caitlin Clark if he goes to Utah. Utah is a wasteland of talent. The NBA suspension of Ja killed Ja's rise to the face of the NBA. I don't disagree with that.
No.
But Ja killed Ja's rise.
Yes,
Ja got himself suspended.
Ja did that to himself. Don't blame the league for that.
Yeah, come on. Danny Hernandez. Fight off. Tyrese Halliburton has that potential, but he's not.
But see, like, I don't think of Tyrese. Like, I agree Tyrese is good, but I don't think of him as in the best player in the league conversation. And I certainly don't think of him as like the face of the league. The guy who's the face of the league right now, as far as that younger generation, is Anthony Edwards. He's the guy. He's the guy you need.
I think in the young players, yes. The T-shirt, I think it was Steph. And if I get this wrong, I apologize. I think Steph's Put the Baby to Bed T-shirt, where he's doing this. It's sold out. It's sold out on the Warriors online team store, the NBA store, in less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Less than 2 minutes. That guy's a gravitational star. There's just nobody behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And it should have been Luka. It should be Anthony Edwards, but he flopped at the Olympics, which really hurts him. Jason Tatum, the highest paid player in the history of the NBA, isn't a personality. I think that's the problem. We're going through this generation where people are super talented. They just don't have personalities.
Yes.
And it used to be, well, they're European. It's not that anymore. It's not that anymore. You put a guy like Victor Wembanyama in a big situation in the Olympics, he still performs.
Yeah.
But you can't interview the guy. You can't have Shohei Ohtani on your TV show because he doesn't speak English. I think there's major flaws in all of their, like you look at the Dodgers should have the most mark. Who are the best players on the Dodgers? Shohei Ohtani.
Mookie Betts.
Is Mookie Betts that guy?
Not really. I mean, he's a Jordan athlete, ironically.
Isn't Freddie Freeman that guy? But he's not really that guy.
Generally, Freddie Freeman's not that guy. He was an online sensation for 5 minutes.
But look at Aaron Judge with the Yankees. Very quiet, unassuming guy.
Yeah.
We have a generation of athletes, millennials, that are not dynamic personalities.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the golden era of baseball anymore because guys, Jazz Chisholm isn't good enough, but man, that guy's a great interview, right?
Yeah.
Harry Austin, how's my favorite San Antonian this morning? Is the issue that stars are more international players than U.S. born? Yeah, I was just talking. I don't think that is. I don't think that's it. Jeremy Bolton, such a good point on Steph. Steph is an amazing, likable athlete.
Yeah.
You like watching him play golf. You like watching him play basketball. You like watching him play with his kids. Like
the guy shoots it from a mile. What's not to like?
And he's fun to listen to. He's a good interview, right? Don may eventually be that guy. Donovan Mitchell could be that
Another guy on the list.
If he goes to New York, right? Take men's tennis. When it's an American star, it's more popular. I don't disagree with that. Today, most of the stars are international greats, which does not create the same buzz here in the U.S. I would agree with that. I would look at all the young golf stars. Why is golf exploding? Because all of your influencers are 20-somethings that are interesting characters. Bob Does Sports or Good, or Bryson DeChambeau.
Mm-hmm.
Great character, great personality, right? We are probably going to be about 3 to 5 slow years in the NBA because we didn't get it from Jordan to Kobe to LeBron. That's very true. That's very true. I would agree with that. Chrissy, the LeBron Prime era was one of the best days in the NBA. LeBron was the most hated, and it fueled ratings.
Yeah,
yes, it did.
Right? You see what I mean? Like, people hated Bron.
Yes, it did.
And then you had, dude, I didn't forget about Bron versus the Celtics, dude. Nobody forgot about that.
But think about KG and think about Soda.
Yeah. And I agree with the last comment you showed about how Kobe came before Bron. That's a great point. You had the bridge from Jordan to LeBron.
Yes. Yep. Big Daddy Magic. Victor, Mike G, Alien Shoe Size 20, and High Fusion Shocks from France.
No idea what you're talking about,
I don't know what that
bro.
means. I don't know what that means. No idea. I never thought the no personality because they're European. No, Luka's got a great personality. He just doesn't win.
And he's unlikable.
And he's a dickhead.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge problem. All right, finally, Jeremy Bolton. Maybe the NBA needs to hire Mark Harlan for some PR.
Stay hard.
Like, what are we doing? I love BYU fans, how red ass you guys are. It's your year, man. It is your year. Do you?
Don't lose to Kansas, dude.
Huge preview of that game tomorrow. Yeah. This number right here should terrify you. We were talking about it earlier. Full preview of this game tomorrow. What a week in college football. Football Friday, Giving Friday on the Monty Show tomorrow. It's going to be amazing. It is going to be amazing. As always, the Monty Show is presented by The Advocates, theadvocates.com. The best injury attorneys in the business. Clear, risk-free advice. Chat with an injury attorney 24/7, 365. It won't cost you a dime at theadvocates.com. Until tomorrow, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.